Get ready to dive into the comic book realm, where heroes rise and villains take the helm. We're here to dissect the stories and the art. Our source material, we tear the panels apart.
And welcome to the Source Material Comics Podcast. We are returning with our second installment. And when I say returning, we are returning. Returns. We have returned.
When I say returning, I mean we've come back.
We are back. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jesse Starcher. Right over there is Mark Radulich. And that's right. We're getting into this second story of this Mask omnibus. This is titled The Mask Returns, published by Dark Horse Comics, on sale date September of 1992. Not too long after the ending of our first story, which was just The Mask. That ended in October of 91. So about a year later, they're clamoring for some more Mask, Mark. They want it to come back. So we're going to get into this second story.
Given the antisocial violent nerds of the 90s, I'm not surprised.
We definitely want more Mask. This is going to be continuing the story, which is great. We're not picking up, and it's going to be a brand new tale of somebody else getting the Mask. This picks up a few months after the end of the first book. Calloway has stashed the Mask in his basement, covered it with cement. He's a hero, by the way. He's still thought of as a hero that saved everybody from Cincini's, I think is the name, the restaurant hostage situation. Calloway's at his house, and the guy that started this whole hostage situation at Cincini's is like, oh, you know what? Okay, I've got something for you, Mr. Policeman, that's saved everybody. I'm going to send, I think his name is Don Mazzo is his name. He sends 3 thugs to go kill Calloway at his home. They come in, they burst in. It's a home invasion. Calloway is waiting for him, though. He kind of gets the drop on him, but then he has to try and get out of there. He can't get out of there, so he runs downstairs into the basement, grabs a sledgehammer, and John Wick style busts open the hole where he buried the Mask because he thinks that's the only thing that can save him. And before he can get to the Mask, he cracks it open. The Mask is right there. The thugs come down there and load 3 slugs right into his back. He's injured enough to where he's unconscious and he can't get to the Mask.
All right.
So the thugs grab the Mask and walk outside. They get into the car, and in a comically messed up fashion, they end up putting the Mask on the driver, which is a guy by the name of Little Nunzio, just to kind of mess with him. But the Mask, of course, takes over. Mm-hmm. Calloway is critically injured, but he survives. He ends up in a coma in the hospital. Meanwhile, Nunzio becomes the Mask, and he decides that he's just going to start, as the Mask does, he starts causing chaos. First thing he does is
he takes over the mob. And then he's and then he's like, all right, we're able to expand our territory. Like, well, if you do that, there's going to be a war. And then he blows up the other mob.
Right. He's trying to create this criminal empire by taking everybody else out.
Right.
So Kathy decides that it's time that I step up and try to stop this guy. I need to stop the Mask. So she dresses rather scantily and becomes friends with the Mask and kind of is now at his side, using her feminine wiles to kind of influence him, I guess you'd say. Mm-hmm. She befriends the Mask and tries to retrieve the Mask from Nunzio. One night, I think she talks him into going to his house and maybe doing something, a little hanky-panky, and he won't take the Mask off. And she's like, well, okay, well, I'm not taking this off. He's like, all right. Well, Nunzio, by the way, is, my goodness, he's worse than Stanley Ipkiss when it comes to the meek factor. He's stuttering, and he's kind of this real shy guy who's working for the mob. But anyway, can't get a girl, takes the Mask off. She comes out and proceeds to get a hold of the Mask. I think she kills Nunzio in the process. All right. So here is Kathy again with the Mask on. Now, Walter, we talked about him in the first book, the massive, mute, hulking mob enforcer guy.
Yeah.
He's actually in jail, and Don Mazzo gets him out and says, I need you to protect me. Mm-hmm. I need you to protect me from the Mask. All right, no problem. Calloway, meanwhile, awakens from his coma. Catherine ends up finding Don Mazzo and confronts him, only to be shot by Walter. Walter unloads a shotgun into her stomach or her chest, and she sees a hole. I think this is the first time she's been shot. She falls over. She wakes back up. She's like, oh, okay. Well, obviously I'm invulnerable because I wear this mask. And then she gets shot again. Walter shoots her again. So we get this great battle between Walter and the Mask. Walter and Kath on this pier. Calloway ends up figuring out that it's Kathy possibly wearing the mask after he wakes from his coma, and he heads down there driving a car onto the pier while Catherine is trying to face off with Walter. And at some point in this warehouse, after she, I think, has shot Walter a couple times, she's like, all right, I know what you want. You want the mask. And Walter is, you could tell at one point he's grabbing her head, trying to rip the mask off and stretching her a la cartoon style, trying to pull this mask off, and it won't come off. And she finally takes it off of herself, takes it and lays it down. And she's like, if this is what you want, you can have it. And about that time, Walter goes to grab it, and a car comes flying into the warehouse. And sure enough, it's Kellaway who hits Walter
with a motherfucking car.
Sending him and the mask into the body of water. So yeah, at the end of book 2, Walter's in the drink. He got hit by the car. The mask is gone. Kellaway is. By
the way, the bit with Nunzio and the mask, where it's just like, I want to kiss you, but not with a mask on. So he takes it off, and that's how she tricks him. That's in the movie.
Yes. Well, a lot of I started to get some vibes from this book that's in the movie. Like
between book 1 and book 2, there's a lot. They definitely took bits and pieces of book 1 and book 2 and put them in the movie.
Right. The whole villain getting a hold of, or somebody that works for the villain, because Nunzio, again, not.
Well, this one, it's Dorian gets it.
Yeah, in the movie, Dorian gets it, and he's the mob boss.
Yeah,
but Nunzio is not anywhere near a boss. As soon as
he's the fucking driver. Oh, I love when the mob figured that out too. It's like, isn't he our driver?
What the hell's he doing in here? Why? But yeah, by the end of this book, that's it. Walter's in the drink. The mask is gone. Kellaway saves Kathy, and they walk off. And that's pretty much it. This is, as far as the second part of this, there's still some violence that happens in here. They're still not holding back. I don't feel it's as violent as the first book, but it's still there. We've got people getting shot, people getting maimed pretty badly. But again, it's the mask. The mask gets onto Nunzio, and Nunzio's pretty ruthless about it. He's taking out mob families. When Kathy gets a hold of it, she is trying her best to be like, okay, I know this thing can control me. I know this thing can take over. I'm not going to let it. But it ends up getting a little bit of the best of her, especially when she starts going after Mazzo and tries to.
Can we talk about that? How Kathy is almost incorruptible. She struggles a little bit with it in the second book. She has it for a little bit longer, but it's such a commentary on the perception of men and women, at least by the writers of this thing, that all the men, again, I in the first episode of this podcast series that we're doing, I compared it to Lord of the Rings. It's such a Galadriel moment where Frodo just offers her the ring, and she's just like, I would become the most powerful, most beautiful fucking. She turns green and shit, and she's like, oh yeah, oh, take it back, no thank you. As you can see, you should not give this to good, powerful people. None of us can resist the corruption, right. And that's kind of how they write her, where she's definitely feeling the tug and pull of this thing, but the guy succumbed to it so easily. This mask, the guy's like a little bit of power and invulnerability, and they go crazy and murder half the town.
Right.
She puts the mask on. And she's like, I just have this one task. I'm literally wearing this mask to not die. And then as soon as we're done here, I'm taking it off. And it's like, I don't know. Have you met women?
They could be a little vengeful. They could be. I know that's something that runs through their blood. That happens.
Like women are incorruptible. Come on.
No.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous to me. I think there's almost like there's like a fantasy in comic book writers about how they see women. And we get very caught up in the two extremes. They're either Power Girl with the tits window, or they're a woman in a fridge in a Green Lantern comic, and there is no in between. But and I think a lot of writers just have like fantasies of women of these being pure, incorruptible, powerful creatures who make men better by their mere existence. And again, I say, have you actually talked to a girl? Mm. Not that there aren't great women out there. There obviously are. There are sane women. I've never met one, but I'm sure they exist. But this idea that all the men are so easily corruptible, but this woman can fucking keep it together. Come on. I'm so tired of it. That's my one comment about the second book. Not that I didn't like it. I like the whole thing, most of it. And we're here to talk. So Yes, we're here to talk, and so I'm going to bring up some of my criticisms, but this is going to be a very boring podcast. Hint, hint for everyone else I talk to. But that's just one of the comments I have about it. It's just like, again with the pure powerful woman thing. It's like, besides that, the stuff with Nunzio was funny to me. And
I wasn't expecting Calloway to get shot in the beginning of this. I was like, oh, he's going to get the mask and he's going to take care of business, and he doesn't,
which
is good. I like that swerve.
I like between the mask and the mask returns. It's a nice little redemption arc for Calloway. He's back on the force. The mask has been dealt with. He's learned through these 2 books that power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and you must remain true to your soul. It's a nice little story. Of course, the woman has no arc and goes nowhere and does nothing. She's just awesome because all women are awesome. and that's it. That's the mask for you. And the mask is, by the way, I don't know if throwing it in the water, because the movie does this too. The movie, at the end of the movie, if Jim Carrey throws it off a bridge into the water, and whoever's driving the car with him, I don't remember which character this is, but he dives into the water after it. And in both cases, I thought, this is not how you get rid of a dangerous artifact.
Yeah, at the end of book 2.
Could you imagine like that's Lord of the Rings? Where it's just like throw it in the brook. Just throw it in the pond.
Throw it back into the creek where Gollum found it before.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a lesson in Lord of the Rings. Don't throw things in the body of water. It can be found.
Right.
Destroy it with fire. Destroy it with fire, Jesse. Destroy it with fire.
As far as characters go, we don't really have a departure from the norm. We get more Walter for sure in the second part. The second story.
I'm wondering how much of that was just a response to either editors or fans or both, where it's just like, we need more of this hulking brute.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they needed you'd mentioned it in the last episode, they needed somebody to be the foil. He was the guy that the mask had the most problem with. Okay, let's keep him around and see what exactly we could do to throw him up against the mask. We learn a little bit more about Lionel. Lionel he's visiting. He's clearly a good friend to Mitch Calloway. Calloway's laying there in the hospital in a coma. Lionel is visiting all the time. But Lionel's not close enough to where Calloway feels comfortable telling him anything at this point as far as the mask goes. But it's interesting that Lionel is in there and the report comes over the radio that the mask is back, but it's a woman. And about that time, shortly thereafter, Calloway's awake. He's able to, he wakes up. Let's look at the issue real quick and just to kind of draw this out too. But there are some kills. I don't think we have, man. we're getting close. I'll scan through this comic and we'll talk about some of the kills, because that I think is the stuff that makes the book the over the top.
Definitely for the readers of the time, sure.
All right. So Nunzio in the car. When he first gets the mask on, all of a sudden, again, we have
oh my god, him stopping short and everyone going through the windshield is awesome.
We have no idea how this mask works, but I think it also can impact what your things around you, because this car can go at Mach speed all of a sudden, and then he hits the brakes and the thing stops, but it grounds into the pavement.
Not
everybody flies up.
Single person wearing their seatbelt.
They all fly.
Which they say in the comic. There's like, oh, this is why I've never seen a better ad for wearing your seatbelt.
Okay, what's next here? Nunzio makes his way back to Mazzo's and is planning to take over the mob. So the first thing that he does is he hits a wedding reception, and the way that he does it is with a large bomb with a button on the top that he hits with a hammer. And there's just this massive nuclear explosion that happens inside the walls of this. And he comes out of there. And he's
clearly about the fact that there's no possible way this mask would ever survive this. They would be called every law, like Homeland Security, which I know wasn't a thing in the 90s, but there's no, they limit this to the local cops. First of all, in the first book, you killed that many cops, the FBI and the National Guard are showing up.
Yeah, there's going to be a national response to this.
Yes.
Wow. So yes, he blows up a wedding. He ends up showing up at the Asian place.
And
the
no one cares that he set off a nuke, by the way.
He shows up at where the Asian gang members are meeting in a freaking armor, knight's armor on a horse.
Yep.
And then he kills everybody with darts. So he uses darts to kill everybody there. Let's see. So this is Nunzio. He I don't think he does any other kills. I'm looking through here. Nunzio. Oh no, he does. He ends up the guys from the wedding, the family from the wedding, the Pescados, I think was their name. The Pescados from Philly show up and they're like, "Hey, get down here. We need to have a talk." And he goes down there. The mask goes down there with a baseball and a bat and starts hitting the baseball through these guys until they all take off running. All right, so there you go. Oh no, and he also puts on shoulder pads and a football and hits everybody a la football style.
Right.
Okay. All right. And everybody, what in the cartoon, everybody would just be flying all over the place, and that would be the end of it. These guys are laying on the ground, bloodied and dead. That's the way that this works.
And that whole thing, that whole gag is him trying to impress the girl. I think it was.
Oh yeah, Catherine.
Yeah.
Right.
He keeps doing this, and he's turning to her like, "Ah."
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think of that touchdown?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when she's up in the attic, I think it's great because she's chased up into the attic after she kills Nunzio, and she's got the mask and she's looking at it, and she knows the only way she can escape is by putting this mask on, which she does, and then she lays waste to everybody that's in there, all the other gang members that are chasing her. We get that weird flashback that I was like, oh man, we're going to get an origin, but where this guy they're dancing around this fire. This person has the mask on. Somebody comes up behind them and chops their head off. That person reaches down and then reattaches their own head, which is strange. And I think she sees this through a dream sequence. Doesn't go anywhere. We just see where somebody had stole the mask, and that's how it kind of got to the United States. But yeah, that's about it. We get the battle between Catherine and Walter. I like that. I love the fact that he just shows up and he's like, nobody can control Walter. Everybody tries. And there's that real disturbing moment where he's talking, the guy that's hired him for protection, Don Mazzo, is like, hey, I've got you out of jail, man. Come and take, I just need you to do protection. And Walter, all he's doing, he doesn't say a word, but he grabs a knife and he just starts slicing his own face. Yeah. And he's smiling while he's doing it. It is freaky. And then he takes, I have no idea why he does this. He pulls the blood in his hand and then just flicks it onto.
Let him know you can't fuck with me.
It's just weird. But so Walter is just.
You ever fucking draw blood from somebody and just smear it on your own face, Jesse?
Can't say that I have.
Well, when you do, you'll know it's to fuck with somebody, like get in their head.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. The Walter Catherine battle's great. You know Walter's not dead. There's no way that he got hit by a car, launched into the river, and it's coming. That's not the end of Walter. That's not the end of the mask. But
no, Walter eventually crawls out of the water, and he's Swamp Thing.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, he becomes the master of the green.
That's beautiful. Hey, I can do it. All right.
And then he says, "Fuck Firestorm."
I'm done. I don't
gags.
Oh, fuck Firestorm. There's not much else here to talk about, man. I covered the story. I think the best bit is Walter trying to pull the mask off and stretching her neck.
If the omnibus, because I have the omnibus, the purple cover and everything, and if you didn't put the natural divider in there that said this is The Mask Returns, I would have thought The Mask and The Mask Return was all one book.
Yeah, it flows.
Yeah,
really well.
I would have been convinced those first two books were one complete 8-issue series. The third one, when we get to it, that's a whole other animal.
It is a bit different.
Do you remember years ago when we talked about the Monsters Unleashed book?
Yeah.
And we did the trade, the limited series, and then it became its own series, right? And it was a little bit different from the trade at that point. These were established characters that kind of just did their own thing. It kind of feels like that, where books one, The Mask and The Mask Returns feels like Monsters Unleashed, and then that third book, The Mask Strikes Back, just feels like, okay, now in its own goes from the limited series to its ongoing series. So I'm looking at the wiki for The Mask comics. The original trilogy of The Mask Returns, The Mask Strikes Back was published as a limited series from 91 to 95, and then expanded into various spin-offs and other media. Looking at the publishing history here.
It's definitely we got the same creative team on all those books.
Okay, so The Mask is actually 5 issues. The Mask Returns was 4 issues. The Mask Strikes Back was 5 issues.
Oh, okay. All right, then. Oh, yeah, it says it right there.
Yeah, and then we have The Mask, The Hunt for Green October, which we are not going to talk about, but that was 4 issues. The Mask, Southern Discomfort is 4 issues. The Mask, Toys in the Attic, starting to see a pattern here, 4 issues. The Mask, I Pledge Allegiance to the Mask was 4 issues. And then it goes into a whole other thing. One thing I wanted to note, I noticed is the Mask Strikes Back becomes this whole other deal. And then it looks like every time they brought one of these up, we have somebody new with the mask.
Yeah. He starts doing crossovers.
We just have new people. Every limited series is a new wearer of the mask.
Oh, I got you. I was thinking about he does some crazy crossovers there in the mid 90s. Grifter in the mask, Lobo and the mask.
Because that's what you need is two indestructible, wise-assy, violent characters. And for more on that, see Deadpool and Wolverine this summer in theaters.
The Mask, martial law. There's the final one that they talked about in here was the Joker mask, which that would actually be pretty interesting.
I was going to say, we almost did that as one of our crossovers, and then I fucking big timed you and made you do Godzilla fucking Power Rangers instead.
But that was a good book, so I'm not going to complain. Yeah, man, the Joker mask would be Kellaway's in this. It looks like
it seems like too much of the same thing with the Joker mask. Well, one of the reasons why when we were doing the crossovers, I was curious about it, but my reservation is it's a little too much of the same character.
First sentence: the Joker inadvertently gets his hand on the magical mask after it is found in a Gotham City museum.
Yikes.
Oh man, that would be pretty crazy.
I wouldn't mind seeing that as an SNL sketch.
All right. Well, that was the second part of this trilogy. This was The Mask Returns. Let's get into plugs, man. Plug some stuff.
All right. Everything W2M related is W2M Network. Our landing page is W2MNetwork.com. Our Facebook is W2M Network. Our Twitch is W2M Network. I believe we have an Instagram. I have an Instagram, but I also, more importantly, have a TikTok. It's at Mark Radulich, MarkRadulich on TikTok. I post clips of all the podcasts that we do through the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. I made Jesse do this on StreamYard so that I could cut 10 minutes out of it to post on TikTok. Jesse was like, we do this on Skype. I'm like, not anymore. We don't. I'm like, God damn it. Yet again, Mark takes over and makes me do things I don't want to do. I also post concert footage of my kids doing karaoke or funny stuff. A little ways back, I stitched my daughter doing a really funny rant. So we'll start real quick because, again, we have to draw out the podcast and we go 20 minutes. So a little ways back, we did the podcast where we did Lean on Me, Stand and Deliver, and Dangerous Minds. It was Pat and Ronnie and I. And we were talking briefly about Lou Diamond Phillips. He was in La Bamba. He played Richie Valens. Richie Valens singing a song called Donna. And it got stuck in my head. And so on the podcast, when we were talking about La Bamba, briefly, as we were talking about Stand and Deliver and Lou Diamond Phillips, I just start singing, as I am prone to do. I start singing Donna. I just derailed. Ronnie was in the middle of talking, and I'm like, "Shut up, Ronnie! Oh, Donna!" And I start crooning, and then Ronnie starts singing in his Edith voice from All in the Family, and then Pat started doing it in a really, really fast beat, and this went on for a good minute before I finally stopped singing, and that it was in my head. So when I took my kids to go see Bob Marley a few weeks ago, not the guy, the movie. Oh, and
went and saw him.
Yeah, we were getting snacks from a gas station before we went to the movie, and I kind of crept up behind my daughter, and I'm like, "Oh, Donna, oh, Donna," and I'm chasing her around, and she's like, "Get away from me, you creep!" It's amazing. I haven't been arrested. Like, why are you bothering this 18-year-old girl? Why are you bothering this 18-year-old girl? One, she's 13. Two, I'm her father. Oh my God. Surprise, surprise. So I started doing the O'Donna thing, and finally Lily was like, "Leave Donna alone." She just goes into this rant about how Donna fucking lives in the woods deliberately with her 10 cats and her wine, and just leave her alone. Lily was projecting. Yeah, Lily was very much projecting. But I thought it was hilarious. So I recorded her doing that rant when we got home, which because my son gets very upset when the attention's not on him, when I'm giving my daughter attention and not him. At the end, he couldn't just let her have a moment, Jesse. I don't know if you've ever done this with your kids, where you paid attention to one kid and another kid gets immediately jealous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I record her doing this rant, which I'm going to then stitch to us singing O'Donna. And this is all on my TikTok. It's a big, giant advertisement for my TikTok.
Okay.
But she does the rant, and off camera, you hear, "Oh God, I'm so quirky."
that Jonas?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh my God. Couldn't let her have a moment.
Oh, no. Got to get something in there.
More of my kids competing for my love on my TikTok at Mark Radulich. MarkRadulich.
Nice. Very nice. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Source Material Comics podcast right here on the Source Material Comics feed. All thanks to the W2Mnet.com. Hey, you can check out more of this. This is the second story of The Mask. Mark and I got into a lot about this character and what he represents and some of the crazy cartoonish violence that happens in the first volume in The Mask. So glad you could join us here for The Mask Return. Next up, get ready for our third installment, which is going to be The Mask Strikes Back. So that'll be happening next episode. You can check out the Unspoken Issues podcast right here on the Source Material Comics feed, where we talk 90s comics as well. And of course, Snap Material, where we talk about, it's me and Evan Bevins talking about the Marvel mobile games, Marvel Snap. So check that out as well. All right. With that being said, that's Mark. I'm Jesse. We're out of here. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.